Welcome to Resilience Redefined. I'm your host, Michael Osterlink. This show is about building better humans, institutions, and systems. On the show, I'll be interviewing many different experts from across many different fields, including human optimization, health and fitness, team building, mind-body medicine. In the institutional space, we're looking at different institutions and how we can create new ones, new models and maps, including in medicine, in education, in intelligence community, in law enforcement, in the military, especially in the special operations community. Thanks for being here and enjoy the show. With about 30 years of experience as a marriage and family therapist, 25 of which as a coach in the relationship space, I've seen a lot of different ways that people approach each other in dealing with conflicts. There are a few things that stand out that I think are interesting and useful for couples to think about as they go from how they do the conflicts presently to creating a new opportunity to try something differently, to actually resolve the conflicts, or at least engage with each other with more heart, more connection, more love, care, and compassion. There's many different styles or defense mechanisms that can show up in an individual or within individuals within the couple dome, but let me just talk about two that I've seen. One, sometimes when someone gets triggered or activated or whatever term you want to use, they become a little bit more aggressive. I've also seen the reverse. When someone's activated or triggered, they kind of withdraw. They literally withdraw inside their own consciousness and get really quiet and kind of shut down. You can literally see their body shut down. Or sometimes they'll actually leave the room. The aggressive type, you'll see them actually move forward, a lot more energy, engaging the other person in their partnership. Now, this is not to judge either approach. You know, anyone who has either one of those approaches or a third or fourth or fifth approach, they learn to do that in childhood. It's a way to protect themselves against real or perceived threats. So it's not like you want to look at that person and go, oh my God, you're horrible, you're evil, you're bad for doing those things. They learn how to do those things. It's locked into their nervous system. It's just a defense mechanism. The key, though, is to recognize how you do your approach to conflict. If I become more assertive towards aggression, how do I actually do that? Like what happens to my voice? What happens to my tone, my volume? Literally what happens to my physical body? Do I actually move forward and become more aggressive physically? Not necessarily violently, but like physically move towards my partner in an aggressive way. Or if I happen to be the kind of person who kind of withdraws inside myself, how do I do that? Is there a particular thought pattern that emerges, a particular breathing pattern that emerges? Can you actually see the collapse of the system as one goes inward? Once you know, as part of a couple, if you're working with if you're wanting to heal that part of yourself and learn to show up differently, once you know how you do what you do, whether it's withdrawal, collapse, or aggression, and you get to experience that at very subtle levels, you can start interdicting. So for instance, if I am the type who becomes a little bit more hyper-aggressive when I'm activated in my conflict with my partner, and I know how I do that, my breathing gets contracted, and my heart gets faster, I have particular thoughts go through my mind, my jaw gets tight, I actually physically move a little bit forward, or maybe my chest gets bigger, or I'm ready for conflict. If I know how I do that and I'm aware of it as it's happening, and that takes time, all these things can take time to become aware of it as it's actually being activated in your nervous system. But once you are aware of it as it's being activated in that moment, you can interdict. You can literally change your thinking. You can change your breathing pattern. You can change your physiology by changing the structure of your body. You know, if you're the one who retreats inside oneself, you can actually open the system up instead of collapsing the system. Opening up allows you to breathe more fully. You breathe more fully, you have access to prefrontal cortex. You can take better decisions. Same thing if you happen to be the more aggressive type. Instead of moving forward, you actually stay centered and calm and cool, collected. You take some deep breaths. You have more access to prefrontal cortex. You can think more clearly, which means you can speak more clearly. You can say your piece without having to become aggressive or without having to withdraw. So once you know how you do your defense mechanism, as I said, then you can begin to intervene and change your internal dynamics and show up more loving, caring, compassionate, and open to the conversation, which allows one to resolve the conflicts or at least do the conflicts differently. One of the ways I've seen this work well with my clients is by teaching each one of them to learn to self-regulate as well as co-regulate. And let me stick with the self-regulation first. One of the tools I use is Heart Math. It's a great tool, a couple $100. You can buy it online. Heart Math is a great organization. And I have my couples use a Heart Math device. And what it teaches them is to regulate themselves in that very moment. It gives you biofeedback so you can actually see if you're getting what they call incoherence, which means activating the heart. So the heart drives the brain and the mind, as opposed to the ego driving the rest of the physiology out of a defensive structure. And what I found is when individuals practice this on a daily basis and they can get themselves into coherence, even when they engage in a conflict of sorts and they start noticing they're getting out of sorts, they're getting dysregulated, they can go back to that daily training of the heart math device or any other kind of device, or even, you don't even have to use a device, but any other kind of training, a daily practice that teaches you how to get calm, cool, and centered, remain heart opened, and as I've been sharing with a lot, access the prefrontal cortex so you can think more clearly and speak more articulate from the heart. So if you're going to do one thing, I would find a practice that teaches you how to become calm, cool, and centered, whether it's heart math or Muse or any kind of other technology you might find, or just a regular meditation practice. Another thing one can do is actually in the partnership is co-regulation. So it's one thing to be able to learn to regulate oneself, and that's really, really important, how to manage one's own nervous system so you can be more calm, cool, and centered and adapt to the situation at hand from a much more heart open space. But you can also do this as part of a couple too. And one of the exercises I have couples do literally at the beginning of every session is I have them face each other and they, with permission, put hand on heart. They have eye contact and they start breathing together. And it's a way to co-regulate their systems. Like their systems get in sync with the breath, with the eye contact, the hand on heart. Like there's an energetic synthesis of sorts, emotionally, mentally, energetically, spiritually at some levels as well. And that co-regulation allows both our systems, if they happen to be dysregulated, to be more regulated, more calm, cool, and collected, and allows them then to face together whatever the challenges that they're dealing with. And when I do this in a session, if they come in distracted from child issues or school issues or work issues, and they can kind of co-regulate with each other, it makes it so much easier to deal with whatever the challenges they face, because they're facing it with a more regulated nervous system, but they're facing it together as a partnership, facing the issue, not facing each other like the other person across the space is the problem. If you find these tips valuable, let me know. And if you have other areas you'd like me to explore in the individual resilience space or the relationship space, let me know that as well. I love to do these educational videos and more than happy to address any issues that you have in your own life or that you've seen out in the world that you'd like to learn more about. See you next time and stay resilient.